This is Sir Creep, and tonight, you're about to hear 3 encounters I wish I could forget. Some stories stay with people, not because they're memorable, but because they should have never happened. The thing beneath their campsite. A group of 3 friends, camping near a remote lake, hears scratching sounds from beneath their tent. Something is moving underneath the ground, and it knows their names. So the story begins from here. My friend Ethan always said camping was the only place where he felt alive. No phones, no noise, just the sound of wind brushing against the trees. That weekend it was just him, his cousin Liam, and his childhood friend Grace. They picked a spot near Moon Ridge Lake, quiet, isolated, and miles from the nearest house, perfect for a peaceful weekend. The first night was calm, until right around 2:40 a.m., Ethan woke to a faint scratching sound coming from under the tent floor. Not outside, not in the woods. Under them. At first he thought it was an animal, until he heard it again, slow, deliberate, like fingers dragging across fabric. He whispered to Liam, "Do you hear that?" Liam nodded immediately. His face was pale. Grace sat up too. "It's coming from under us." Then it stopped. They all listened, frozen, and that's when something whispered Ethan's name from beneath the tent. Not loud, not angry, just curious. "Ethan!" Ethan felt the ground shift under his sleeping bag. Something long, thin and moving. They bolted out, unzipping the tent in panic. The forest was silent. No wind, no crickets. Then, the scratching started again, this time from under the dirt outside the tent. Something digging upward, fast. Liam yelled, "Get to the car!" They sprinted toward the trail, but Grace looked back, and that's when she saw it. A hand, long, bony, grayish, pushing out from the soil like someone crawling out of a grave. And the worst part? The fingers were not a new many, not 5, not 6, but a 8. The hand grabbed the side of the tent and pulled itself forward. They ran for miles until they reached the car. 3 days later, rangers went to check their campsite. The tent was shredded. The ground was torn open, and deep under the soil were tunnels, dozens of them. But what scared the rangers most was what they found carved on the tent pole. Ethan's name, Liam's name, Grace's name, scratch marks, perfectly spelled. The girl in the spare room. A family hosts a distant cousin in their spare bedroom. Every night she stares at the hallway and talks to someone only she can see. Eventually they check the camera. The story comes from a woman named Claire who lives in Wisconsin. She and her husband had a small, quiet house, the kind of place where nothing unusual ever happens. One winter, Claire's 10-year-old cousin Emily came to stay for a week. Sweet girl, quiet, polite. Her only strange habit was that every night, she left her bedroom door slightly open and stared down the hallway for minutes before sleeping. On the 3rd night, Claire asked, "Emily, is everything okay?" Emily just whispered, "He comes out when the lights turn off." Claire laughed nervously, assuming it was just imagination. But at 3 a.m., Claire woke up to footsteps, small ones, slow ones. She peeked out and saw Emily standing in the hallway, facing the dark. "Emily?" Claire whispered. Emily didn't turn around. She just pointed toward the blackness and said, "He doesn't like when I move." Claire flipped on the light, but no one was there. They comforted her and put her to bed. The next day, Claire checked the hallway security camera, expecting to see nothing. But the footage showed something else. At 2:57 a.m., Emily walked out, stood still, and after 15 seconds, a tall shadow stepped out of the spare room behind her. It stood inches from her, leaned close, and whispered into her ear. Emily didn't even flinch. Claire and her husband froze the frame again. The shadow had no facial features, no eyes, no mouth, just a stretched silhouette shaped like a man. They moved Emily to their room that night. But before sleeping, she whispered, "You shouldn't have watched him. Now he knows the camera saw him." The stranger in the woods who knew there. 2 hikers meet an old stranger who tells them things about their lives he shouldn't know and warns them one of them won't make it home. Jacob and Oliver loved hiking, especially long trails deep in Colorado. One afternoon, while following a forest path, they came across an old man sitting alone on a fallen tree. He wasn't dressed like a hiker. No backpack, no water, just staring at the sky. Oliver asked if he was okay. The man slowly turned his head and said, "I've been waiting." The boys exchanged confused looks. "Waiting for who?" Jacob asked. The man smiled lightly. For you two. He said their full names, perfectly, as if he'd known them for years. Jacob stepped back. How do you know us? The old man ignored the question. Instead, he said, Jacob, your mother's favorite necklace is in the drawer you never open. Jacob froze. Only he knew that. The man turned to Oliver. And you, stop pretending you didn't hear your father crying last night. Oliver's eyes filled with tears. Then the man sighed. One of you won't be going home after sunset. Jacob scoffed, thinking he was crazy, and pulled Oliver away. They walked fast, then faster. By sunset, they reached a narrow cliffside path. Oliver suddenly slipped, the edge crumbling under his feet. Jacob grabbed him, pulling with all his strength. But the drop was too deep. Oliver yelled, Let go, you're going to fall. Jacob refused. His feet slid closer to the edge. Then a hand grabbed Jacob's shoulder. A very familiar hand. The old man stood behind him. But his feet weren't touching the ground. He whispered, Not yet. Oliver was pulled back to safety. Then they looked up, and the old man was no longer there. They ran straight back to the trail start. The ranger at the station listened to their story and quietly said, Boys, you're not the first to see him. Hikers call him the one who warns. The strange part, he only appears to those who are supposed to die.